And again, this is very general, and there's a whole lot of work under each one, but hopefully this will get you started and going on the right place. I wanted to show you what was on this jump drive of yours. There's a lot of free space on here too, so it becomes helpful for future stuff too. But if you open it up, you will see our health professions manual with up-to-date information. Last time was from last year, but this is all pretty current. And our contact information, where our center is located in the old cafeteria building, as well as our phone number to schedule appointments. And our website that has a lot of this information and up-to-date information on here as well, and where this recording will be posted. And just to go over the contents of this jump drive, you've got everything on deciding a health profession, which most of you sound like you know what you want to do. Some good career, salary, where will you work type information. Some undergraduate degrees if you're still not sure about the undergraduate degree that you're pursuing to get to that graduate program. Check that information out. One of my favorite things on here, well, I'll put the websites are awesome. They're all your professional websites for the programs that you're interested in. But I'm a timeline kind of person. I like to check things off, know what I'm doing. Am I doing it in the right time frame? Definitely check that out from freshman to senior year. Information on standardized tests, the application process, getting letters of recommendation, being a part of the health professions committee, you name it. There's some really interesting and good information to help you throughout all these steps. So let's get into what we're talking about here. I'm going to move to our 13 steps to get into graduate school. All right. There we go. So, starting with the very first step, deciding on what graduate program you're interested in. Most of you guys, looks like you know exactly what you want to be, where you want to be going, what you want to do. If you're still curious, you think health-related something, I'm just not sure what, or helping-related something, I'm just not sure what, visit the Career Center. They are wonderful. They have a lot of diagnostic tests that you can take that you can learn about yourself a little bit more, your strengths, your weaknesses, your likes, your dislikes, and it'll come up with some great summaries and options, and you can talk with a counselor over there about, you know, maybe there's something besides physical therapy that you haven't even considered that matches and fits well with who you are. So that's my plug for Career Center. You've got their website there. All right, part 2. This is a big one. Understanding the requirements for your program. So almost every professional program that we just mentioned that you raised your hand for has some specific requirements that they want to see during their undergraduate years to get into the program. They have a specific list of courses. They have a specific, usually a specific list of courses that they want you to have with a minimum grade usually in them. So be familiar with your prerequisites. And also be familiar with, do you have to have a test with it, a certain test that goes along with it. And I'll show you, that page is on here. There it is. All right, so that's going to be page 28 in your manual. And just for example, I've got OT pulled up here. That seems to be the most popular one too, but I'll go with them. You've got a list of the required courses that they want to see during your undergraduate years, and it lists them there. It also tells you some interesting statistics, some admission information, but be familiar. Now this is ECU's OT program. Most of you are going to be applying to more than one school. Be familiar with your other schools that you're looking at. So I mentioned my favorite page was all those professional websites. Your professional website for OT school, the AOTA website, they'll have every accredited program in the country. So let's say you're picking your top 5 schools. Go to that website. Then visit each admission page for your school and make sure you're taking the right courses. There might be 1, 2, 3, or even more courses that are different school by school. So you want to make sure you're covering all your bases in the next 4 years, or 4 years plus. All right, so be familiar with prerequisites. That goes without saying. And then, we're saying make sure you go to that, whatever professional program page, so for OT, AOTA website, but every professional program usually has an affiliated website, their accreditation body that has all the accredited schools. You don't want to go to a school that's not accredited, and you can see what those classes are. All right, step 3, volunteer and shadow. That's a big one, and it's not just one volunteer, one shadowing event. That's a throughout your time here at ECU. You want to be doing volunteering and shadowing. Who has been to the Volunteer Center on campus? I see 4 or 5 people. I need to see all those hands raised by the end of this semester. Visit the Volunteer Center. They're located over in Old Cafeteria Building. You've got their website listed there, the VSLC website. Let's see if I can pull it up. All right. So, Volunteer Center, their whole job is connecting you with various volunteer opportunities, whether it's on campus or in the community. So they're a great resource to go visit, but I actually like their website because they try to present everything for you. If you click on the service guide up top, and you click on the actual service guide itself, it's going to talk to you about different programs that they're involved with, as well as a list of community resources in Greenville surrounding area. And once you know it, they even put a special section together for all the health-related volunteer opportunities. So scroll on down until you find the page with health programs. It's all divided by campus, or if you're interested in working for the environment, there's our health-related, so it starts there. You've got a contact for the different types of centers and places you can get involved with, phone number, what would you do there, who to talk to. This is a great resource, and there are a lot of places listed. So Volunteer Center, go see them, or certainly click on the service guide to get familiar with different opportunities. And shadowing. So volunteering and shadowing are very different. Volunteering does not necessarily have to be just health related or just specifically whatever your professional goal is. It doesn't have to be with an OT doing something OT related. It could be working with animals to kids to helping the environment, so it can be a wide range. And I think all of that shows that you're a helping nature, you want to make this world better, so it doesn't have to necessarily be focused on something health related. Your shadowing, though, usually is separate, and you do want it to be focused on your professional goal. Yes, ma'am?
For some programs, they don't have a required set of shadowing hours.
Right.
On the application process, is there or on paper or interview, is there a section that states, yes, I have done shadowing in this field, and yes, this is how many hours, or is it something that the college does and looks up your name in the volunteer center and you report it through there?
Right, usually not. So if it's on the application itself, that's usually where they're pulling that data. I would say if it's not on the application itself, they're usually not like going to go specifically to ECU's Volunteer Center and look up your hours. However, that type of information, you have a lot of great volunteer experiences or shadowing experiences, that's going to come out in your personal statement, that's going to come out in your interview, so it is going to come into play. Hopefully there is some place on the application where you get to kind of jot down and maybe put some formalized information about it, but a lot of these standard admission kind of applications don't have that specifics. But I promise you it will come into play and it will help you. Personal statement, which you're going to hear more about, and then certainly interviews. So keep track of it. The Volunteer Center will keep track of your hours. Go on their website, there's a specific form to get registered with them, and then every time you do something, you can submit it. I would also be OCD and keep track of all those things myself. Create a spreadsheet every time you do something, get a signature from the person that was your supervisor, have a little description, have a phone number, so you're keeping track of your records as well. And then I'd have a separate document keeping track of my shadowing hours. So shadowing is usually under a licensed professional, and there is no one-stop shop, go here, you'll get shadowing. A lot of it is kind of using your own personal resources. Going home, maybe you're familiar with an OT or PT that you've maybe visited yourself being injured. So connect with people that you know, or talk to your neighbor, talk to your family. And then remember, a lot of these places want to see a variety of experiences in a variety of different settings. So if you are interested in becoming an occupational therapist, I'll keep using OT as an example. I'll change that, I promise. But maybe, working with the elderly. Maybe it's working in a hospital setting, maybe it's working in a rehab setting, maybe it's working with kids, or maybe it's working with a special population like autistic children. So they want to see that variety in knowledge. And is there a magic number of hours? Some schools are going to say, yes, we want to see blank minimum number of shadowing hours. And they're going to be even more specific than that. On their admission side, they're going to say, we want to see this many hours, and these are the only places we'll accept it from under this type of MDOD, or they'll get specific with you. So be sure, that's why it's so important to go back and check the admission site for all these different schools and keep track of it. Now, I will plug our Pre-Professional Advising Center does offer shadowing opportunities called the Physician Shadowing Program. And it's great for those of you interested in medical school, physician assistant school. Any PAs out there? I'd even shout out to my PAs. One possible PA. All right. Great opportunity. You have to have a 3.3 minimum GPA. You can be a sophomore, junior status. Check out our website for more information. But it is a wonderful opportunity. 5 different areas of the hospital that you get to get experiences from, and it's a semester-long program, so that's a kind of built-in shadowing. Check out our website for more information. All right, moving on to step 4, selecting your top 3 to 5 institutions. So can't just go off of ECU, right? ECU is very competitive for most of their graduate school programs. And actually, most graduate programs are very competitive, but there are some varying levels of higher admission standards. So spread your eggs in more than one basket, pick your top 5 schools, again, go into that professional website to make sure they're accredited programs, and make sure that you understand not only their prerequisites, their requirements, but understand their competitiveness level, and you should be able to see that on their admission page. What is their philosophy, their mission? ECU has a very specific, usually their admission standards, their philosophy standards are, we want to serve Eastern North Carolina, we want to serve the rural health area of our state. And a lot of the admission standards for various allied health programs, they are only accepting in-state residents or surrounding state residents, so be sure to be aware of that. And why is that? Because they think keeping our in-state folks, they're going to stay in-state, they're going to practice in-state, they're going to help this area. So be in tune with what the philosophy is. Is it helping, families, that kind of general practice, or is it more school focused on research? Does that align with what your goals are? What do you want to ultimately do when you graduate from this program? I mentioned making sure you look at the admission standards. Do you have to be an in-state resident to apply, or surrounding state resident? That's important. Checking out tuition. There's a big difference between private schools and public schools, and you will see that when you're looking at those tuition pages. Financial aid availability, do they offer graduate assistantships, do they offer any scholarships you might be eligible for? And certainly when you graduate from that program, are you going to be credentialed to only work in that state? Or are they going to license you to work in the areas that you ultimately want to work in? So make sure that, number one, they're a properly credentialed school, and then with that license, what is that going to give you? Or are you limited to working in North Carolina? So check that out. And whenever you have a question about that, I feel like the admission counselor for that school is probably the best person to ask. They can give you the ins and outs of all that detailed information. Take a practice test. So, along with those required courses, there's going to be a test that goes along with it. Just like you took the SATs to get into high school, there is a test that goes into getting into that graduate program. Depends on the school, and luckily in this lovely manual you have a page dedicated to what is the test for your program. Alright, I'm going to change speeds. I'm going to go with dental school. There is a dental admission test for dental school, and that is a specific test that covers the admission classes for dental school. That's what's on the test, so be familiar with your test on the timeline that we have on here. when should you be taking it. But we feel like you should take this practice test that our office offers. It's free. It's through Kaplan, and we send out emails about it, how to register. And what's nice is the test doesn't count as a score, but it's the real deal. You sit, you're sitting as if you were going to take the test yourself in the future. You get a score, you get an analysis as well. Where are your strengths? Where are your weaknesses? Where do you need to beef up? And hopefully that's going to help drive your study plan, help you prepare for when you do take the real test. So be on the lookout for that. We offer it in the fall and the spring. Usually, let's see, October, and in the spring, February. Thank you. So yes, sir. None in the summer. So in the fall.
Not here, but you can go online to CapTest. I think it's captest.com,
Yes.
and do a zip code search for free events in your area. And it might be that, if you live somewhere else, they might be offering one somewhere.
Yes. And they do that because they're drumming up business too. That's helping them, get your analysis, and maybe you decide to take a class with them or take a prep online program with them. So it's certainly worthwhile. And you'll hear more about that from Kaplan. All right. So you got your results. Now it's time to really come up with a study game plan. And there is no perfect one-stop shop, do this, you're going to improve your scores. Everyone learns differently, everybody studies differently, you know yourself. I say treat it like a course, like a semester course, whether that's dedicating a whole semester to study and treat that amount of hours dedicated each week to prepare for it. Maybe it's just 6 weeks, it depends on you, depends on what kind of score you need to get and where you stand on some of those practice tests that you've taken. And there's practice tests available online as well. If you get a GRE, say you're taking the graduate record exam for your graduate school plans, there are many different types of books that you can get from the library to Amazon to Barnes & Noble's. Make sure you're getting the correct edition. There was a change in edition or change in test material 2 years ago. So make sure you're not getting a book that's too old. But take those practice tests on there. Figure out where you need to beef up. Study, get a group going. Use different online tools. Think about taking a class, whatever is going to work best for you. Yes, ma'am?
In theory, when is the best time to actually take your test?
So we say your junior year typically. Depends on the program. It depends on when your admission deadlines are. Usually that's happening sometime your senior year. Different programs you're going to maybe need to do a little bit earlier. PA school seems to be like the one program you have to start a little earlier than everybody else. And probably medical school as well. But others I see them taking studying their junior year, maybe taking it the summer of their junior year before senior year. And then sometimes that gives you enough time to do it senior year, fall semester if you need to take it a second time, take it a third time. Don't take it more than 3 times. Usually you don't see scores change that much after 3 attempts, but again, that's up to the individual. So taking the test, and check out that timeline on there. That timeline probably does a better job than what I just gave you as far as advice goes, but that timeline on your jump drive is good. So certainly taking the test, and if it's one of the MCAT, DAT, OAT, PCAT, those are specific tests for medical school, dental school, that are going to be pulling information from the prerequisite classes, so those science courses that you took, the biologies, the chemistries, the organics. If you haven't had those courses yet, I would not take that exam yet. So you want to make sure if your test is covering specific classes, make sure you have those tests prior to taking it. The GRE, that's like the SATs for grad school, so your verbal, your writing, and your quantitative. Did I see a hand raised? No. Good. All right. Step 8, acquiring letters of recommendation. So different schools are going to require different amounts of letters. Some are 2, some are 3. Some schools may even want to see a committee letter, and you are in luck. ECU offers a committee letter opportunity. So check out your school's requirements. I won't go into great detail what the committee letter is, but it's basically a small group of faculty on campus that provide a group letter. They interview you and provide one consensus, one heavily weighed letter from different faculty across campus.
It is required for dental school, so whoever's interested
Our
in
dental and our med, it is required, absolutely. Now you might be thinking to yourself, who should I ask for these letters? What should I do? We've got some really good tips on the jump drive. But you want to think about certainly someone in academia. So is it a class that goes along well with your future program goals? You want to go to speech therapy program. I would ask a speech therapy instructor from undergrad, someone that knows you well, that you've obviously done well in their course. If you need a specific science instructor, those science classes can be really big, have 200 plus people in them. So making those connections with instructors, making sure they know you, that they know how hard you're working, you're meeting with them. But certainly, if you need that letter of recommendation, if you know this is going to be your instructor, you're going to ask for that letter of recommendation. I wouldn't let 2 years go by, pop back into their office 2 years later and expect them to remember all about you. So stay in touch with them, even ask them early on after the class is over so you're fresh in their mind and all your hard work is fresh in their mind too. Yes, sir?
Oh, yes. I should first tell you that I stutter, so I'm probably going to stutter when I talk to you. And would it matter if they, I don't have to date on the actual, on
the letter itself.
on the letter actually matters, because it's outdated, I would think it would,
You know, that's a good question. Does the date really matter? I would say if it's, again, maybe you want to check with the school, if it's more than a year old, does that matter, more than 2 years old? I would say though, I've used letters of recommendation that have been a year plus old, or what I've done is I've gotten a letter of recommendation from, say, an instructor or teacher 2 years ago. I saved the letter. I needed it 2 years later. I said, I have this letter from you. I would love to still use you as a reference or use you as part of my letter of recommendation packet. Would you mind updating this? And hey, I've done a few more things. Can I tell you about that? Have them update your letter. Usually that works too if you need it to be, you know, within a couple months. So hold on to those letters if you get them early. And if you do want to have them refreshed or updated, I would say that works out just fine. So besides instructors, professors, think about if you work somewhere, maybe your supervisor at work, or maybe it's a supervisor that you've done some shadowing under. Those are great references as well. Have seen you in action. I've seen your passion for your future field. Have really seen you try something new or have been a great worker. So think about all those volunteer shadowing various work that you've been a part of. Supervisors can be great. A mentor, and just someone that interacts with you on a frequent basis, you know, whether it be someone in your church or someone in the community, someone you've seen more than one interaction with, that can really speak to your skills, your abilities. We get asked a lot as advisors to provide letters of recommendation, and unless you have a close relationship with your advisor, you see them on a frequent basis more than once a semester, I would say they're not always the best. Even though I love our advisors, we're not always the best people because we haven't really seen you in action in the classroom or outside the classroom with your volunteering or your shadowing. So just keep in mind, those letters of recommendation can really help you choose wisely. Step 9, writing your personal statement. I'm going to leave this one alone because we're going to get to that in just a little bit. But there's some great help. Besides the Career Center, we have a wonderful writing center on campus. Use them. They are well versed on the ins and outs from the very beginning to the very end, helping you with that personal statement. All right, our last steps here. Applying to the school. So, of course, there is going to be the application deadlines. Be familiar with those. Different programs do admission differently. Some, it's a one-stop portal where you only have to go to that one website and it will allow you to select all the different schools that you're applying to. Others, it's a school-by-school basis. And then there might be something supplemental too. You just need to be familiar with every school that you're applying to and what the deal is for that program. And we actually have a application page on this jump drive that will explain, depending on your program, what is yours. Is it a one-stop shop portal or is it individual school basis? Not every admission program does this, but there might be an interview involved. So after you've submitted all your admission paperwork, they want to meet you. They want to get to know you. You're in their top pick. Interviews are usually good. That means you've made it through that first process. And I hate that I've heard this statistic, was it with speech and hearing? I'm trying to remember. That our ECU students don't interview well. Oh, I hated to hear that. I know you guys can interview well. You're wonderful students, working hard. Beef up your interviewing skills. Best place to go? Career Center. They will do a mock interview with you. They will give you tips and tools. We have some tips and tools on here, but you don't want to go in cold. You want to know what they're looking for, what to brag about yourself. You're not bragging, but what you need to talk about and what you need to showcase, and really do prepare. There is an art of interviewing, so make sure to schedule that appointment with that Career Center counselor. Yes, and then you will be playing the waiting game, waiting for that admission result. I always ask, you know, if you do get in, where are you going to live? How are you going to pay for it? Checking out financial aid opportunities. Graduate school does offer financial aid, but again, it's a school-by-school type of deal, so you want to be familiar with that. And then what is your plan B? What if you do not get into graduate school right away? Are you keeping some things alive in the back about applying maybe for a job, working in that career for whatever your undergraduate degree is? If you're health services management, are there job opportunities that you can go for before going on and getting that master's degree? Talk to your advisor about potential plan B options, and then talk to them also about, you know, reapplying. What does that look like? And if you don't get in, what a great feature about many schools, they will either give you an exit interview, or you can ask the admission group, is there something I could do to be a better applicant next time? And usually they can give you that feedback, and that might be maybe it's taking the GRE again, or that test again. Maybe it's beefing up your science test grade, or I'm sorry, your science grade, so taking additional courses. Maybe it's getting a different graduate program. There are different options. Hopefully you got into your program and you're making a decision, and it's to start that school. So it's definitely, all these 13 steps take a lot of work under each one. It sounds easy, just 13 steps of getting in, but definitely doable. Check out the timeline to kind of see how to space all these things out. Any questions before we move on to our Career Center? All right.
At the very end of the document on the flash drive is a self-assessment, and it's basically a document that will allow you to kind of track your grades in certain courses, to help you calculate your GPA, and to also list like your shadowing, your volunteer, your work experience, research experience, just to kind of have it all in one place. And so it will make your life a little bit easier when you go to fill out these applications if you have everything kind of all planned out.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Have you already gone over what's on the GRE like?
We are going to hear, we will hear a little bit more about that from our Kaplan representatives at the end of the presentation.
I'm not sure if they're coming.
If they're coming. And there is a test page on this jump drive that kind of goes over what each test is for each program. And I will say the GRE is like the SAT for graduate school. It has those 3 similar sections, but certainly just at a graduate school level. Yes.
And just to make sure, we are going to be giving them these drives?
Yes, I'll bring one to you. Anyone didn't get this, we've got plenty more up front. Please help yourself, as well as magnets. And for those of you viewing this virtually, a lot of this information is available on our website.
The whole thing's on our website.
The whole thing is on our website, so Don't even worry. And that website is ecu.edu/PPAC, Pre-Professional Advising Center. All right.